Hi, my name is Addison Whittam, and I'm going to talk about a quote I came across in Chapter 3 of Panic at the Pump, and it was written by Milton Friedman. So the quote says, "The current oil crisis has not been produced by the oil companies. It is the result of government mismanagement exacerbated by the Mideast war. It is a mark of how far we have gone on the road to serfdom that government allocation and rationing of oil is the automatic response to the oil crisis." So I found this quote interesting because it put all the blame for the extent of the shortage on the government, and it didn't say that the big oil companies were at fault at all for the shortage problem. He starts out the article by talking about how oil prices have been kept relatively low before the shortage even began in order to encourage consumption and to discourage both current production and the expansion of capacity. He then presented a scenario where we lose 10% of our oil supply from the Mideast, and he continued by saying, "It's no biggie, we just have to cut our consumption to the rate it was during 1970. And the best way to cut consumption is to let the prices of oil products rise. Friedman says, yeah, higher oil prices aren't nice, but it's better than the alternative, which is artificially low prices and government rationing, which will send everybody to the gas station so they can get as much of the rationing as they can before there is nothing left to ration. Next are the two videos on why higher oil prices are better suited to fight the energy crisis than having artificially low prices and government rationing. Alrighty, so here we have a graph that depicts how the government kept the prices of natural gas relatively low until August of 1971, as well as how the price controls from the government increased the fuel shortage. Now we have our made-up equilibrium here at 5 units of output and $2.50. However, the government wants to keep oil prices low, so they implement a price ceiling or price controls here at around $1. Now, instead of the market producing 5 units of output, because of the price ceiling, they can only produce 2 units of output. Now that there's less supply, there's more demand for oil. People want there to be 7 units of output for oil. However, this is where the market is producing. This space right here, from point A to point B, is where we have excess demand, which leads to shortage. Alright, this is a graph that shows how the government could have limited the oil crisis and the energy shortage. Friedman said that if we lose oil supplies from the Mideast, that isn't a problem as long as we cut our consumption of oil. Friedman said in his article that the most effective way to cut consumption and encourage production is simply to let the prices of oil products rise to whatever level it takes to clear the market. The higher prices would give each of the 210 million residents of the US a direct incentive to economize on oil, to find substitutes for oil, to increase the supply of oil. So, this graph will show how higher oil prices would mitigate the fuel shortage. So, we have the same equilibrium here at 250 and 5, but what happens when we let the price of oil increase? So, let's increase the price of oil to $5. Well, a price increase is a shift along both the demand and the supply curve. So, although demand for oil is really low relative to the price at $5, the supply is way over here, which creates a lot more output than 5 output here at our original equilibrium. So the space right here between where the demand curve is and where the supply curve is a surplus. Now we have an oil surplus. Now, this oil surplus could limit to the overall oil shortage during the 1970s, and this is what Milton Friedman said would help us get out of the energy crisis and the problem of our dependence on the Middle East. So Friedman's main argument is that it doesn't make any sense to have government rationing and artificially lower prices because that'll just increase to the shortage that's already going on. It makes more sense to fight the shortage by using a surplus, by having higher oil prices so the demand for oil goes down and the supply for oil goes up. However, gas is a good that has a relatively inelastic price elasticity of demand, meaning when the price of gas changes, consumers' demand for that good does not change by a lot. This could be because gas is a necessity or because it can't be substituted with another good. What do you think? Do you think if the government listened to Friedman about letting gas prices rise, it would lower demand to the point of ending the energy shortage? Or is gas too inelastic for that to happen?